So my 5-year-old and my father came out to help me put together this money pit trailer. While my kid was checking out the boat and everything else in the environment, my dad and I put together the leaf springs and shackles, bolted them all up, brought them over, lined them up, and bolted it all together in one go. We left the bolts loose until we got all the axles under it. After we got the axles all put in place, I measured from the brake flange to the center of each leaf spring all the way around and made sure they all matched even on both sides and on all 3 axles. This made sure that the axles were centered up on the trailer, since there was no real locators on the axles themselves to line them up with the leaf springs. Now the leaf springs did have a locating pin to make sure they were centered on the leaf spring, front to back. After we got everything bolted up, it was on to the hubs and disc brakes, which my dad packed all the bearings for and got them ready while I put on the caliper mounting brackets. Once everything was well greased, he installed the disc brake and the hubs on the rear trailing axle. I came back and installed the caliper on the front 2 axles and cleaned the grease off of the disc face. Next, we were off to running the brake lines. We assembled majority of these on the tailgate of the truck and got it in the layout and configuration which we thought it was going to go in, and then laid it all under the boat across the axles. Then crawled under and, leaving enough slack for suspension movement, zip tied the middle line to the crossmember support of the frame, and then the front axle one I just zip tied to the axle itself going across. Then we ran all of the brake lines up the port side of the boat along the trailer up to the tongue. All of the brake lines were teed fittings on the port side of the boat. Once that was all tightened down and ready to go, we started on installing the tongue. Unfortunately, the drill holes didn't line up, so we had to drill some new ones. And after drilling all three, realized that the bottom one wouldn't fit with the flange on the tongue. We weren't able to get a socket on it, so we ended up nixing that bolt entirely. Meanwhile, our pet lizard decided to abandon ship while he still could. Probably a good idea. The next part had us baffled for a little bit, trying to figure out how to bleed the whole brake system. We started off hooking it up to the truck and putting it in drive and reverse, trying to pump the brake system, but that just wasn't working. After doing that about 15 times and realizing the brake fluid wasn't bubbling at all, we decided to take the cover off and use a screwdriver to pump it by hand. This worked much better, and it gave me time to crack the brake lines while my dad pumped it and held it until we had a steady stream coming out of each caliper. We then put on the wheels and tires, filled the hubs with grease, and now we're down to the last few details of wiring up the brake lights and putting on a new strap on the bow and probably strapping down the boat to the trailer itself, and then we should be ready to haul it home. Oh, and installing the spare tire. Hopefully we won't need it, but at least it'll be there just in case. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.